week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable. Rohan Kishibe is having one hell of a day, as he has a stand which is attached to his back, known as the Cheap Trick. And it also seems like Kira Yoshikage has figured out that his son has been spying on him this entire time, and it leads to an incredibly tense and disturbing confrontation at the end of this week's ridiculous and awesome episode. Let me just say that Rohan Kishibe is a freaking genius for how he came up with this amazing plan to get this stand off his back. At the beginning of the episode, he seems incredibly desperate, as Koichi finally comes over to his house, and Koichi doesn't believe him at all. You know what? You guys have seen some really weird shit in this series, a lot of it making no sense whatsoever. But when your friend, who has stand powers, asks you for help because he's being attacked by a stand that you cannot see, you need to believe him. You need to take the benefit of the doubt, because Rohan went through shit this week. I hated the fact that Koichi left at the beginning of the episode. Also, isn't it really disturbing that when this Cheap Trick stand actually finishes killing someone and moving on to the next person, that the person that it was originally attached to transforms into this tiny little mummified corpse? That's just fucked up. A lot of the tension and unintentionally funny moments from this episode come from Rohan Kishibe sneaking around town, putting his back up against walls, and just praying that nothing can see him. And this includes people and it includes animals, which I didn't even think about before. And this, of course, just increases the tension tenfold. I love the scene where he actually gets up against the back of another guy who's walking against the street, and it just looks so goofy with him just sort of going back and forth like, I hope nobody notices this. Luckily, thanks to Heaven's Door, he is able to escape. That is until he walks into this alley, which is filled with cats and dogs. At first I was like, okay, this is a little extreme. What are all these cats and dogs doing here? But apparently Cheap Trick can actually talk to people and animals as well, so it's actually gathered them all there so that they can end up seeing his back so that he can defeat Rohan. However, the best part of the episode comes into play when Koichi decides to go and find Rohan again, as he finally realized, you know what, something was not right about him earlier. And you actually get to see that Cheap Trick is sort of like breaking down Rohan mentally, trying to get him to show his back in an effort to sort of kill him, and it almost seems like Rohan is going to go through this. Like, he's finally had enough, he's going insane, and then he walks out into the middle of the street, shows his back to Koichi, and you'd think Rohan would be dead here. But actually, they are on a very specific street. It just so happens that Rohan and Koichi are on the road where Reimi and her dog live, the ghost girl and her ghost dog. And because of this, they're on that very specific patch of road where if you keep walking, if you turn around and look, those weird hands are going to come out and grab you. And he figures, if anything looks behind, they can be grabbed as well. They're going to take your soul away. And if you take the soul away, it's not going to deal any damage to Rohan. He actually manages to trick Cheap Trick into looking, turning around, and then it suddenly gets peeled away by all of those ghostly hands. And to just top it all off and make it super badass, Rohan uses his Heaven Door's ability to write down on the Cheap Trick's head, "He is going to hell." That was freaking awesome. That could have been the whole episode right there, and I would have been completely satisfied. But there's an amazing B story in this episode, which is all about Yoshikage Kira, who is starting to lose control of his bloodlust. He has to kill someone, and luckily he finds a couple in this week's episode. There's a great scene where he's hanging out on this train, and there's these, like, boyfriend and girlfriend who are being complete assholes to him. This one chick, her purse ends up touching his leg, and he pushes it away, and of course they immediately call him a pervert. Kira ends up following this couple home, killing the boyfriend immediately in such a stylistic and awesome way, and then continues to berate this girl by asking her name, and even giving her these earrings which already have ears attached to them. It's so fucked up! He just grabs her and just makes her explode, taking her hand as his prize. The problem is he's being followed by his son, Ayato, who's been filming all of this, as well as a lot of other things, and eventually he does get caught. He runs home and he decides to take a bath, and he's basically just completely shitting his pants, when suddenly we get what is probably one of the creepiest scenes from the entire series, where Kira walks into the bathroom and wants to take a bath with his son, and he wants to wash his back, because that's just what the Japanese do. This is a really creepy scene, because of course Ayato's incredibly vulnerable. He can't go to his mom, he can't say anything to his father, and he's completely buck-ass naked, which has got to make you feel completely uncomfortable in a situation like this. this. And Kira makes it very clear that he knows what he's been doing, and he's planning to kill him by taking a strand of his hair and making it explode, making it seem as if he's actually going to trip and fall, busting his head open on the bathtub, which is something that can commonly happen to people. But no, Ayato manages to escape, claiming that he has a lot of footage of his father, and he's the only one who knows where that is. He's basically going to use this as a bargaining chip to save his life and to potentially escape from his creepy-ass father. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable? Cheap Trick has got to be one of my favorite stands, if only for the fact that its gimmick is incredibly unique. And it's also incredibly dangerous. It's amazing how the smaller stands with less elaborate powers always end up being incredibly disturbing and very life-threatening. It's also really weird that Koichi wasn't able to stop that stand by using his echoes on it, because Echoes actually appears and tries to freeze it, but as that happens, he gets so heavy that it starts to rip Rohan's back off, and you get to hear all of the gory details, and frankly, it's just fucked up. But Rohan's idea to actually go to where Raimi lives, to go down that street and trick Cheap Trick, was just genius. That was one of the coolest moments that I've seen from the entire series, and I loved his line about saying, I don't know if you're going to heaven or hell, but I'm going to make sure, and he writes down going to hell on his head. It was like a freaking 80s action line, like when Arnold Schwarzenegger kills someone. It was just great, and it was the cherry on top of the kick-ass sundae. All of the stuff with Kira and Ayato, though, was just plain disturbing, from beginning to end. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time watching that scene. You were just sort of waiting for that moment where Kira was actually going to blow him up, but it never happened. And I have to say, Ayato has some guts for him actually standing up to this guy and claiming that he has all of this footage. Not just of Kira, but also of the weird frickin' cat flower up in the attic. Yeah, remember, that's still a thing. My guess is that Ayato is going to escape and meet up with the other stand users. I don't know how he's going to do that, but he does know their names as he's been sort of like looking at all of the surveillance cameras and listening in on his father, so he might be able to find them that way. He's basically the ultimate would-be detective. He's Sherlock Holmes in training, so I don't think it would really be all that difficult for him. All I know is he's actually turning into a pretty interesting character, where before, I just thought he was just a really pissed-off kid. So this was a freaking awesome episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which you should definitely check out if you've been following the series, proving yet again that this arc, the July 15th arc, has just been one hell of a crazy day for pretty much every major character in the series. I loved getting to see the time-lapse and seeing where everything happened. It just made everything seem all the more complete. And this was a complete package of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable. I loved this episode. I loved the twist with Rohan actually getting the monkey off of his back, and all of the stuff with Kira was just plain creepy. So this was a great episode right here. I'm dropping a 5 out of 5 on this bad boy right here. Check it out, JoJo fans. You'll definitely see something you like. If any of you did watch the episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of Diamond is Unbreakable. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment or two, and if you liked this review, please hit the like button. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.